Hello, colorful quilters, and welcome to Color Girl Quilts on YouTube. My name is Sharon, and I'm so happy that you're here to sew with me today. I have been in the mood lately to make some kind of quickie quilts with traditional, cheerful, easy to sew quilt blocks. And one of the ones that's been on my list to make is this cute little shoe fly block. Now, I'm sure that you've probably heard it called other names. This is a very classic traditional quilt block, so it probably has other names. I'm gonna call it a shoe fly because that's the one that I'm familiar with, but I think it's adorable, super easy to sew, and it has lots of possibilities for making it modern or traditional. So I'm going to show you how to make a block like mine that I used for this cute baby quilt. All right, so these blocks are 10 inches. You can adjust the size up and down as you like. The measurements are very simple for this one. And if you haven't already, be sure and watch my previous video on sewing half square triangles. That's going to tell you how to size up and down the triangle units for your block, and then that will make figuring out the cutting and sizes for the other pieces really easy. Okay, so we're going to work with a 10-inch block today using 2 fabrics. So you need to choose some prints and some solids. So I made mine where each block has a different print paired with a different solid. Now, obviously, you could do it your own way as well. For example, instead of having each block be a different 2 fabric combination, you could do something like having all of these solid color ones be the same color throughout the entire quilt, so like a background fabric, and then just have your little shoe fly pieces be in your favorite colors or prints. Okay, or you could do the whole thing in just 2 colors, having one for the background and one for the prints. It could be super scrappy. They could be all the same in the blocks the way that I've made mine. This one has a lot of possibilities for using your stash, scraps, or your favorite prints. The fabrics used in my quilt here are called Ariel. They are a new collection for Wyndham fabrics, and you will find them in yardage as well as a fat quarter bundle on colorgirlquilts.com. So if you're interested in making one like mine, you can get the fabrics at my website. So I'll put a link to the page in the description of this video. Okay, but let's get started making these cute shoe fly blocks. The first thing that we need to do, of course, is cut our fabrics. So as I mentioned, you need a solid and a print. Or in other words, when you're choosing your own fabric, you need a piece for your background fabric and a piece for your focus fabric. Okay, let's start with the focus fabric. For the center of the block, since we are making a 10-inch block, the center is 4.5 inches square. So I'm going to cut one of those. I cut a strip of my fabric that's 4.5 by the width of fabric, and then I'm cutting from that. So a 4.5-inch square, and then I need 2 4-inch squares. These are eventually going to be the half square triangles in the corners of the blocks. Okay, and what you're going to love the most about this block is how easy it is. From your focus fabric, all you need is a 4.5-inch square and 2 4-inch squares, and set those aside. And then from your background fabric, in my case the solid, you need 4 rectangles that are 4.5 by 3.5. So again, I cut a 4.5 inch strip, and I'm cutting my 3.5 inch rectangles from the length of that strip. You can just as well use fat quarters, fat eighths, or scraps. You do not need to have width of fabric strips for this project. And then same thing as before, as we did with the others for the half square triangles, we're going to cut 2 4-inch squares. And that is it. It doesn't get much easier than that for piecing an entire quilt block. Okay, so just some squares and rectangles. Now, once you have those pieces cut, we're going to match the 4-inch squares right sides facing. So one focus fabric and one background fabric matched up so that we have 2 sets. And then take a pen and mark the diagonal from one corner to the other on the wrong side. Okay. Like I said, these are eventually going to be cut into half square triangles. That's why we're marking them like this. Now we'll go to our sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of the marked line. Okay, so the other option that you have for this is to go ahead and just cut rather than marking the diagonal. You can just cut them right in half and then sew your 1/4 inch seam on that bias edge. Okay, so let's go to the sewing machine and sew those 2 seams and then cut on the marked line. That'll give you 2 half square triangle units, and then you're going to press them. Okay, so you can see now I have sewn these, like I said, a 1/4 inch on both sides of that marked line. I'm going to use my ruler now and just go ahead and cut on the marked line. Okay, so this will give me 4 half square triangle squares. Okay, and that's exactly what I need for my block. And I'll take these to my ironing board and press them toward the solid color fabric. Okay, and the next and last step for these little guys is to trim them so that they're all nice and square and perfectly straight, and you get rid of your little seam triangles there. So as you can see, I'm using the 45-degree angle on my ruler. If yours has one of those, that's super handy. You can just place it right on the seam line and make sure that your 3.5 inch lines are within your fabric there and at this corner. So my unfinished square size should be 3.5 inches. That's what I want all of these half square triangle squares to measure. And as long as they're all the same size, they will fit perfectly in my block. Okay, so go ahead and get each of these trimmed until you have all 4 of them at 3.5 inches. Alrighty, once we have all of our triangle squares trimmed and square, we are ready to sew our block together. So remember, we have those 4.5 by 3.5 inch rectangles of our solid fabric. Those are going to match up with all 4 sides of the center print square. And then our half square triangle squares go in the corners. So I promised this one was simple, and it doesn't get much simpler than this. How cute is this? Okay, so now I'm going to go to my sewing machine and I'll sew these together in rows. So first of all, sew these 3 units together and press toward the solid color fabric. Then also these 3 together and press toward the solid fabric. And then sew these 3 together and again press toward the solid color fabric. And then once you have those 3 units done, then you'll sew the 3 sections together to make a completed quilt block. Okay, so let's sew those together and then go back to the design wall and see how they look all finished up. Okay, and what do you think? We have finished our cute little shoe fly blocks. I made 3 of them with this particular color combination so that you could see how it looked with the same fabric as the focus and different colors as the background, which is a little bit different than I did in my original quilt where I made all of the blocks completely different. Now you could also reverse this strategy and make all of the background fabrics the same and each of the focus fabrics different. There are a lot of options for this cute block. I love how simple and basic it is. It just creates a really nice geometric pattern that's fun to sew, great for showing off your favorite fabrics, and makes a really darling finished quilt. All right, thanks for sewing along with me today. I would love to know what you think about this tutorial and see the quilts that you've made along with me. So feel free to email me pictures or tag me on social media. I am Color Girl Quilts everywhere. Visit colorgirlquilts.com for more tutorials, and also I would love it if you help me continue to make videos like this by supporting the shop at colorgirlquilts.com when you need fabric or patterns or tools for a future project. Remember, I do have the aerial fabrics that I used in my original quilt for sale in bundles and yardage. So if you like that one and want to pick up some of those prints, visit colorgirlquilts.com. All right, I hope you've enjoyed sewing with me. I would love it if you hit the subscribe button below this video and be aware of all future videos and join us as a colorful quilter. All right, until next time, happy sewing.